I was elbow deep in the '98 Camaro when the knock came, 3 sharp raps that said, "Official business, not borrow a beer." I wiped grease on a rag and opened the door to a linebacker in a rain-soaked uniform. "David Mercer?" he asked. "That depends," I said, because sarcasm is how I breathe. "What's this about?" "I'm Officer Bruce Jackson." He took off his hat like he was already at a funeral. "Sir, I'm afraid your wife, Marissa Mercer, was killed in a car accident about an hour ago. For a second, the world went silent except for rain and my heartbeat. Then I laughed, the brittle kind you hear when reality trips over itself. "No, you've got the wrong guy, wrong house," I said, already climbing the stairs. "She's upstairs asleep." Jackson followed, one hand hovering near his holster. I flipped the bedroom light. Blonde hair spilled across the pillow, the shape under the duvet familiar as my own hands. "See?" I said, triumphant. "One very much." "Sir, step away from the bed," Jackson barked, drawing his weapon. "What are you—" "That isn't a person," he said. "It's a mannequin." The floor tilted. I stared. The makeup, the wig, the little beauty mark on her shoulder, someone had built a perfect facsimile of my wife and tucked it into our bed wearing her pajamas and jewelry. "Mr. Mercer," Jackson said softly, radio already crackling for backup. "Where is your wife?" For the first time in my adult life, I had to answer honestly. "I don't know." Crime scene techs turned my house into a lab. Neighbors gathered on lawns. I sat on the stairs feeling like I'd fallen into somebody else's nightmare. Whoever staged that dummy hadn't guessed or guessed well. They'd used Marissa's real jewelry, even replicated the tiny scar on her wrist. That meant access. That meant personal. The next morning, I called my brother. Daniel's a private investigator with a talent for sniffing out lies and a gift for making you feel dumb while he does it. 3 days later, he slid a fat manila folder across a sticky hotel table and poured me a drink. "Brace yourself," he said. Photo 1. Marissa leaving a downtown Marriott, hand on the arm of Julian Hart, my business partner and supposed best friend. Photo 2. Marissa and Julian at lunch, faces too close. Photo 3. The same, again and again. Then came shots of Marissa meeting a guy Daniel identified as Lucas Kane, an identity fixer. Another meeting with a high-gloss woman who specializes in slipping money through cracks. Screen grabs of my bank statements, insurance policies, and safe combination, all photographed from my office. 8 months of prep. "She wasn't just cheating," Daniel said. "She was documenting your life. She planned to disappear." The car crash was the bow on the box. "And the mannequin?" "To buy time and scramble your head." He tapped the file. "There's a crash scheduled on Route 116 this Saturday. Kane collects her 5 miles up the road, new IDs, offshore. Accounts courtesy of Julian, one way out." Something in me settled. Not rage yet, not grief. A colder gear. "What do we do?" I asked. Daniel's smile was all teeth. "We flipped the board." Riley Ward owed me a favor. Ex-military, now a security contractor, she'd learned to laugh at civilian problems because most of them don't explode. I told her the plan. "You want me to stage the wreck," she said, amused, "and supply a body." "Convincing wreck. Dental records will match what the coroner expects," I said. "No one gets hurt." "Except the people who deserve it." She chuckled. "I'm in." While Riley prepped the theater, I did construction. Marissa hated the basement. Too dark, too cold. Perfect. I built a soundproof suite. Clean bed, bathroom, good lighting, a bolted steel door. A place to think. A place to watch. Then I invited Kane for coffee. It's amazing how cooperative a man gets when his taxes suddenly look like prison time. I gave him a new script. Saturday's weather obliged, gray, wet, unforgiving. At 2:47 p.m., Officer Jackson called with the voice people use when they're trained to deliver bad news. I drove to the hospital and played the grieving husband whose wife was too damaged for viewing. Riley's crash was immaculate. Marissa's purse and jewelry strewn just so. The dental records, prepared. Meanwhile, 30 miles away, Kane opened his van to collect my wife and found her asleep courtesy of a careful dose from Riley. When Marissa opened her eyes hours later, she wasn't in Costa Rica. She was 10 feet below our kitchen. "Good evening, Marissa," I said into the intercom. "Get some rest. Big week." Her eyes found the camera. "David, what is this? Where am I?" "Exactly where you plan to be," I said. "Dead. To the world." I switched her monitor to the local news. The anchor's somber voice narrated footage from the wreck. Neighbors I barely knew told reporters I was a rock. The funeral was set for Thursday. Closed casket. Tasteful flowers. She watched her own obituary with shaking hands. "Julian will," she began. "See for yourself," I said, changing the feed to Julian's apartment. He paced, dialing Kane again and again, talking fast about extraction, offshore accounts, anything but her. When he finally reached a voicemail, he tried his lawyer. "Still think he's looking for you?" I asked. She didn't answer. Revenge is better slow. Monday morning, I wore my best suit and thanked people for casseroles. Julian arrived late, eyes wild, shirt wrinkled. "David," he said, voice sincere enough to win an award. "I'm so sorry." I patted his shoulder and poured coffee. At lunch, 2 men in cheap suits walked into our lobby, introduced themselves, loudly, to the receptionist as financial crimes investigators and asked for Julian. They left behind paperwork with a very real-looking seal. By afternoon, the whole office hummed with rumors. Julian shut my door and tried to look casual. "There may be complications with some investments," he said, sweat beading. "Nothing to do with the company." "Of course," I said. "Whatever you need." The next morning, the real SUVs arrived. The real badges, the real cuffs. Turns out, when Daniel shined a light under Julian's rock, actual crimes wriggled out. Wire fraud, money laundering, tax evasion. As they led him past the cameras, he spotted me. "David, call my lawyer. It's a misunderstanding." I put on my best wounded friend face. "We'll figure it out." That night, I let Marissa watch the arrest on the news. The anchors guessed at 20-plus years. The agent they interviewed promised there was more to come. "He never loved you," I said quietly. "He loved access." Tears ran down her face. Not the performative kind, the real kind. "Why not just divorce me?" she whispered. "Why this?" "Because you didn't pick divorce," I said. "You picked erasure. I'm returning the favor." 2 weeks in, she asked for a face-to-face. I made her wait an hour before I opened the steel door. She looked smaller without the armor. No salon blowout, no flawless makeup, just a pale, exhausted woman on a bed. "What do you want?" she asked. "What's the end game?" "Understanding," I said. "I want you to know what it feels like to have your life taken by someone who promised to protect it." She cried the way people do when they're past bargaining. "I'm sorry," she said, "for the affair, for the plan, for not saying I was unhappy." I believed her. It didn't change anything. "You have 2 choices," I said. "Option 1, stay dead here. You'll be safe, fed, forgotten. Option 2, I help you disappear for real. New name, new town, small stipend. You never contact me or our daughter again. In return, I send periodic proof that she's okay. Photos, milestones, no letters, no trace." "Laya," she breathed, the word like a wound. "How is she?" "Strong," I said, and meant it. "Stronger than we gave her credit for." She stared at the floor for a long time. "I want to see her grow up," she whispered, "even if she never knows." "Then Marissa Mercer stays buried," I said, "and you become someone else." 3 months later, Clara Hayes started over in Whitefish, Montana. Bookkeeping at a hardware store, studio apartment above the shop, hair in a ponytail. No social media, no visitors. The background Daniel built for her was boring by design. Boring survives. Julian pled to avoid trial. He traded his tailored suits for a jumpsuit and federal time. The government seized the accounts he'd intended to fill with my money. His name became a cautionary tale in our industry. Mercer Consulting, singular, thrived. The life insurance paid out. I put it in a trust for Laya. She called me on Sundays. Now, and the conversations didn't dodge the hard things. We spoke like people who'd crawled through a house fire and learned what mattered. Once a month, I mailed an envelope. A few photos of Laya at school, at the shelter, with friends. No return address, no notes. Mercy with teeth. 6 months in, a library computer in Whitefish pinged my alert. A brief search. Laya Mercer. Within an hour, Clara's internet and phone suffered outages. She understood. It didn't happen again. Time did. What time does. The edges of everything softened. 5 years later, I sat in a university arena and watched my daughter cross a stage summa cum laude, engineering degree in hand, future mapped and bright. The speech droned, so my eyes wandered and froze. Back row, sunglasses, ball cap, generic, clothes. I'd have known her anywhere. Clara. My first impulse was to call security. Then I saw her hands shake when she raised a disposable camera, saw the tears she didn't wipe. She wasn't here to blow anything up, she was here to look, so I let her. When the ceremony ended, she moved toward the exit with the tide. For a second our eyes met across 20 feet and 5 years. I nodded once. She mouthed, "Thank you," and disappeared. After dinner, Laya hugged me. "I wish Mom were here," she said, and for the first time I could answer without bitterness. "She would have been proud," I said. Truth, clean and S.